Good morning. My name is Candace Witt, and I'm a prayer practitioner with Light on the Mountains. Let's just close our eyes and go within. I recognize the presence of that divine source, that one, that all, that everything, right here, right now. I know that that creative expression of life is at the center of my being. And as I know that for me, I know that is at the center of each one of you here today. I allow that presence, that source, that spark, to fill me with a creative source, to know that anything is possible, to know that all things that I can think of are possible, to allow me to be open to anything that comes my way, to know, to be discerning, and to know if it fits me, and to know that it is right for me. And I give thanks for this. I give thanks for Reverend John and his message, for R.L. and Max and their music, and for each one of you who make up this center, because without you, we would not have this wonderful place to gather. As together we say, and so it is. I've just had a knee replacement, something I've waited over 6 months to have, after realizing I could no longer do all of the outdoor things I've always loved to do. It was a long 6 months, and my expectations were high, that I would bounce back right away and feel like my old self quickly. But that was not the case. It's been a very humbling experience, and has caused me to go deep inside to try to regain that joy that it seems I've lost. For so long, I have taken for granted that I could bike and exercise as I always have done, albeit a little more slowly. But now even that is a cause for thought. As I age, changes happen, sometimes slowly, sometimes almost instantly. It's been hard for me in the last few weeks to truly remember the fact that I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And this human body doesn't always act the way I think it should. I know deep down that what I need to do is change my consciousness. I expect that my knee will eventually heal completely, and I will be able to bike again. But the outcome may be different than my expectations. To always be in the place of wishing for what could be and not accepting what is means that I'm always feeling less than, always with that nagging sense of fear in the background, allowing myself to be in a negative space. And that certainly is not good for my daily outlook on life. I know that I'm a microcosm of that God that created me, that infinite source in which everything is whole, perfect, and complete. My spiritual self is that perfection. And when my physical body doesn't seem that way, I need to delve within and change the way my consciousness is perceiving the situation. I need to stop wasting time thinking about what I can't do and start to activate my inner source to be open to all of the possibilities that are out there that I still can do. Allow that creative spark to bubble up and take over. After all, change is our way of life. As we look out into the world, we've seen how COVID has changed our perspective on things, how the worldview continues to shift, and how life is in constant movement. I know that the more I can stay connected to that divine spark within me, that will allow me to change my consciousness in the present moment and accept all of the wonderful possibilities that still exist, even though they might be different from what my expectations were telling me. In our wedding rings, we have engraved 3-letter P's. They're there to remind us to stay in the present moment, to be focused on the positive, and to be open to possibilities. When I can remember this, stay in the present, and not close down with worry about what I can't do, I can be in that elevated space of my higher self. Then the world looks brighter, colors are more vivid, and my sense of being connected to everything right now makes each day a blessing. Thank you. Let's just read together the affirmation for September. It's on the insert. I experience a state of conscious expectation, knowing that I manifest my highest and greatest good at all times. Thank you.
When this whole world starts to push and shove me, I need to be still and let God love me.
Thank you, morning. Welcome to the energetic end of summer. Kind of like ends with a whimper, doesn't it? Because some of us drag ourselves in here on the last weekend. I know there's some of you at home, and probably most of our attendees will be after Monday, which as people check in. So, but first of all, as we talk about holding people in our hearts, let's hold our friends and neighbors in our hearts that live in the Limelight condos. I'm sure most of you have heard that it burnt down last night, and there's something like 30-odd residences there. There hasn't been any reports of injury or death at this point, or there's not been word of it expanding beyond those condos. Interestingly, Mac's grandfather built those as the developer 1,000,001 years ago. But here's a little advice of how to ask people or let people know you are there to help. What we usually have been trained to say is, if you need anything, call me. Now, does anyone actually call you when you say that? No, they usually don't. Usually I advise people to one of first asking, what do you need right now? And if their answer is, oh, I'm okay. Well, no, really, okay, your house just burnt down. What do you need? And two, another way to approach it is to ask yourself, well, what resources do I have to share right now and offer them? I have a spare room. I could watch your dog. Do you need a ride? Meaning, has your car been burnt up? So, and get clear in your mind how you can be supportive of someone in your life that may be a friend or maybe even a close friend who may have been living there. And that's a good thing to just remember in the future. That again, I mean, our hearts are saying, we are so heartfelt when we say, call me if you need anything, but people are too dazed in their grief and their pain to really know how to answer that question. So it just, I'm here. Again, I could buy groceries. I could loan you a car. I could watch your dog. So if you know anyone, think about what support you can. And if there turns out to be a public support route that comes through the community, let me know if you hear. I will let you know if I hear, because that's what you do in times like this. Again, at this point, there's no idea of what is needed. So let's keep each other informed, because there is a lot of need. I can't even imagine, especially on this holiday weekend, just having your life literally go up in smoke. So, as we are, as I said, at the energetic end of summer. Of course, it's kind of nice post-Labor Day, isn't it? A lot of the town empties a little bit. We still have summer weather. You could drive through town and not get the bumper-to-bumper traffic. You could go on a little hike and know that it's not going to look like as busy as a shopping mall. So it's kind of a sweet spot in there before we kind of descend into the eventual winter. So we love it, we embrace it. Of course, it used to be that, see which were the best restaurant specials during Slack. I think we're beyond the restaurant specials anymore, but even it's like, oh, we can go to a restaurant because they're not packed anymore. But it is a time to kind of come back down to earth a little bit. I think the summer is great, and it's needed to have this time where you feel less structured and that we could just go do things. And even, yes, like the parade, there's 1 million people here, and it seems like too much. It's good to have all that, but it's also good to come back down to center. I've had multiple parents tell me this week that have school-age children that they are so relieved that it's time to come back into structure, that we can just go to school and do what we normally did and kind of look at life of how it really is at this point. And I think it is a good time, and I know we do here at Light of the Mountains, to kind of revisit, well, what are our lives really about? It's good to take a vacation from it, not to say that we have been in denial about our lives, but to come back to deeper spiritual practice. And I mean by deeper spiritual practice, not necessarily hours on your prayer cushion. It's entertaining the truth that we are one with the divine. And what does that mean? How does that guide my life? Just that thought, even if that's a thought you're more consciously entertaining as you are walking the dog or out on the hiking trail, to come back to center. In this month, we yearly have our Vision and Stewardship program, which on the surface, it's where we recognize the fact that we collectively own a small nonprofit organization. We talk about funding and things like that, but the bigger point is, why would we fund it? Or why would we fund our lives? So the question is, again, revisiting, well, who are we as a spiritual community? What is our greater vision? I think in a sense our vision stays very similar in that we are wanting to create a place where people can explore their spiritual nature and the connection to the divine. Bless you. But the way that physically shows up changes and evolves. We are always, as you look at years, that we leave some forms and ways of being behind as we go to new forms. So that as we come together in our Vision Stewardship program, we're asking ourselves, what's up for us now? And we do have some things that we have visioned and are focusing on and want to discuss as a community. So, and we do that in our lives as well. So as we do that, comes to the question, as we are visioning and seeing our lives expand in consciousness and physically inform in some way, we come to understand, how can we more consciously create our lives and our experience as individuals and together? And speaking to our theme for this month, how can we have a conscious expectation of how life will unfold? I like that, conscious expectation, meaning that I may not see how things are coming. I may not see the method or the vehicle that they are coming, but my expectation is that it will be in alignment with spirit and with the highest good for myself and my life. And that is what spiritual practice is about. It is elevating our consciousness and, again, our energy in a way of alignment with that conscious expectation that we are fulfilling our purpose in our life, even though we may not see how it's going to do. So whenever we talk about things like fulfilling vision or fulfilling expectations, or we want to have a seed thought or idea or intention, of course, we often give a great deal of energy and thought to what is the intention, as opposed to some of the things that underneath it that are propelling that intention. So in New Thought, we have an analogy we often use in classes when we talk about fulfilling intention. We will speak about an idea or an intention or something that you want to speak into form as being a seed, like a plant type of seed, and that our consciousness as individuals and a group consciousness is a soil, and that you are taking your idea and planting it within consciousness to allow it to come forth. Well, we seem to give more energy or talk about the seed than we do the soil. So I want to talk more about the soil today, because you could have the best seed in the world. I mean, let's just say a real seed. And if I set it here on the piano, it could have the most amazing genetic makeup ever imagined in seeds. But as long as it stays on this piano, it's not going to go anywhere. And likewise, if you took that seed and took it to a sandy beach and planted it, not much would happen, because there's not really much nutrients or things to support the growth of a seed. So you really, I'm not a master gardener. I'm really not even a failure of a gardener. I don't even try anymore. But I do know from friends that are, and if you want, ask Manon. She can tell you all that I don't know about that. But what I do know from friends is that you're looking for equality in a soil, and before you plant, and you're going to enrich that soil and set the seed up for success in a certain way. And that in consciousness, again, we need to work on the soil. There's a great documentary I've talked about before, the The Biggest Little Farm. Anyone ever watched that? I love this. And it's a great demonstration of the importance of soil. These people, you got to watch it. It's such a great little documentary. They bought 200 acres of dead land in Southern California, wanting to create a sustainable farm. And they were just even showing the soil. It was just like, it is not sustainable for anything. And what's great about this whole process they show in the documentary is bringing the land back to life. And it's not just bringing the land back to life, it's bringing the ecosystem back to life. And how, as they were, there's so many unexpected things that happen that seem to create more problems at first. But towards the end of it, you see they created this great ecosystem, and they even showed at one point the dirt, and it was just this like dark, kind of alive thing with little organisms in it, and good kind of bugs, not the bad kind of bugs sort of thing. And a great demonstration of how it was healthy is that they had a really big rainy season at some point, and all the land around them, like they're a 200-acre island, everywhere flash flooded, but their land was so healthy, it just naturally went into the water table. So the purpose of my going into this is that we need to think more about our soil. That it doesn't matter how perfectly worded your intentions might be of an affirmation. It doesn't matter how many times a day you say them, or if you have it on a Post-it note on your forehead. If it's not planted in good soil, not much is going to happen. And what I have found, and like I found out on that documentary, if the soil is in really good state, amazing things just have a way of happening on their own. That things that seem miraculous, things that we never considered before. So if we are working more on our state of consciousness and energy level, amazing things will happen almost spontaneously. That if we just kind of clutch on these ideas that we want to see happen without working on the underlying energy of it, we're just going to be frustrated. So let's talk about the soil a little bit more. Well, what does that really mean? How do we do that? I was doing some reading this week called, and I think my title today is Remembering the Truth. You notice I have a little dash in there. I stole that from the chapter I read. So when we think of remembering, we're thinking usually of our memory, of thoughts, aren't we? But what this really refers to is bringing scattered pieces that appear scattered and bringing them back together in wholeness. So bringing all of our pieces back together. And that's really what it is when we're looking in consciousness to this what appears to be scattered within us to bring the truth back together. And one of the most effective ways for me in consciously bringing this together in thought is a form of prayer we teach called affirmative prayer. And many of you have taken classes, know about it. Now, at first, when you look at affirmative prayer, the response is, well, why would we do this? It is a structured prayer system that has you entertain 5 different areas that are important in seeing something to come to fruition. So there is a purpose between each one, and there's 5. And I'm talking about the first 2 a bit today, and the first 2 are actually the most important. And not always appear to be the most important to someone who really wants to see an intention come through. So the first part, basically what we're doing in consciousness is acknowledging that spirit or God is all there is, and that includes me, that we are in this, I guess, energetic system of oneness where we're all connected. And that is, in a sense, of our remembering, bringing it back to center of who we are, and then after that go to an affirmation or a claiming. But as human beings, we want to get right to the claiming or right to what we think is the good stuff. It's like, well, that oneness is okay, but I need healing. That oneness stuff is kind of nice to talk about, when we don't have anything else to do, but I have financial difficulties and I really want to affirm in some way that I'm going to have healing in my finances. But we forget that if we spent all our time in raising our consciousness around our oneness with Creator, that's almost all that we need to do. We lose sight of that. And in fact, our human ego tells us that I really need to clutch onto the affirmation part for something to happen, as opposed to elevate my consciousness in the fact that I am connected to all that there is. Again, the only prayer you need to do is, Spirit is all there is, and that includes me. That really is it. So as we are grounding ourselves a little bit more post-summer in spiritual practice, to remind ourselves of that, of just that one thing, of who we truly are. That to remember to bring the pieces back together. That as we turn on the news and see a million things that appear to have gone wrong, that we need to remember the greater truth that we're still all connected underneath all of this. That you don't have to take to prayer each one of those things that appear to be wrong, that we need to reaffirm and remember our oneness with even those people that we don't agree with. That is where the healing begins and stays. But still, we want the thing to happen. So as we get to affirming or speaking our truth or claiming something, there are some different ways to approach it. So here's an interesting thing to think about. Whenever you decide that you need to take something to prayer or to form an affirmation to heal something in your life or your family's life, usually the reason we do it is because in our minds we see that there's a problem. In fact, as I roam around town and going to Atkinson's and doing all the things that I do, I have people approach me all the time and say, oh my gosh, can I give you my prayer request? This terrible thing has happened. No one has ever said, amazing, wonderful things that happen. Can you hold me in prayer for because it's so wonderful. It's like something is wrong. You need to pray for me. Or something is wrong. I need to pray now. I haven't prayed for forever. So we associate spiritual practice and prayer with something is wrong. So, first of all, we need to realize that spiritual practice is not because something's wrong. It's just because of who we are. So, when we make an affirmation or some sort of statement of truth of what we want to invite in our life, what we're seeing more than our hopeful outcome is that our energy is more that something is wrong. We might take it to prayer again the next day. We wake up and we take our inventory. Oh, something is still wrong. I need to pray. Maybe the day after, something is still wrong. I better ask other people to pray because something is wrong. So in a sense, we're kind of affirming that something is wrong. And so not to say that we pretend that there aren't things that need our attention. We're not going to pretend that a fire didn't happen in Warm Springs and say it's all good and all God, and I'm sure the angels will fly in and give them new homes, and it'll all be fabulous, and I don't have to worry about it. We're not saying that either. Ernest Holmes is quoted as saying is that you turn away from the condition or circumstance, meaning you energetically know that that's not the truth, it's the physical fact and you got to deal with it, but you don't, like I said, go to prayer because something's wrong. You go to prayer to affirm that there is something right in what appears to be this mess. And it's a bit of a different state of consciousness than, again, what you give attention to grows. If you keep giving attention to the fact that something's wrong, there will continually be something wrong. And if the thing that's wrong appears to be righted, you will again be looking for things that are wrong. Well, I got that one covered. What's else wrong that I can look at today? So again, turn away from the energetic of something is wrong, still take care of the issue, but not to know that is the truth. So I've come across a different way of when I look at prayer and when I have something that I know needs attention. Again, we're not going to turn away from it and pretend it's not there. If the boat is sinking, you're not going to pray yourself out of it. You're going to plug up the hole. I mean, there's something that needs to be done, obviously. So again, when we often go to prayer or do affirmations, we take it to an idea there's something wrong, or something needs to be fixed, or I need help in some way. And we'll pray for help. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that we need assistance. But have started to do something that has shifted it a little bit differently for me, rather than having this idea of seeking help. So first of all, as I am working on a state of consciousness, knowing that the power and presence of the divine is ever present in all things, even when it appears not to be, that when I go to prayer in that state, rather than making a statement of I need help or assistance, I look at it another way. The verbiage I've been using is, help me see what is required to go through this whatever experience that we're having together. What is required? And that could be many things. Of course, we can think of things on the physical that may need to be required. Certainly, again, with our friends in Warm Springs, gosh, the physical things that are required, or I can't even begin to enumerate right now. But in what's required, well, what's required of me? What thought pattern that has not been serving me is required for me to release and get rid of? That my prayer to know that I will embrace all that is required is also knowing that everything that is required might not be apparent today. That, as I've often said, this universe works on a need-to-know basis. I will know what is required today. Next week, I will know what's required then. So in my faith and prayer, I am affirming that I am seeking guidance and knowing what is required. And also, I like that word for me because, again, the word need can also go into neediness. You know how that devolves into that? So required just means that, yeah, I need to step up in some way. And again, it might just be in changing my thought patterns and belief patterns, and that will outpicture into ways I show up in the physical world. But to ask, okay, what is required in the situation? What is required to reveal healing and wholeness in this situation? What is my personal duty to reveal wholeness? What is required of me? So that's what really my prayer so much is not, gee, Spirit, give me this want list. It's help me see what's required. Help me see what is mine to do. Help me see the resources that I know that are there that I have up to this point been blind to seeing. What is required of me today as I am stepping up to be part of this revelation of healing. There is a great little way to look at this word of requirement that I like. Does anyone want to admit that they've read the Harry Potter books? I love them. You know, it really is humbling to go into the bookstore and have to go to the teen fiction section. Right? It really, I'm buying it for my nephew. Yes. Of course I'm, and then of course I'm out in the car like, oh my God, this is the new book. Anyways, but yes, I've read them all multiple times. But as in any great storytelling, there are wonderful lessons along the way. Not in only those books, in a lot of fiction. And you could be so caught up in the fun of it all that you can miss them. But of course, the largest analogy here is that people are going to a school to learn how to do magic. Now, we don't believe in magic, we believe in miracles. In other words, you don't get something for nothing, but we can have what appears to be the miraculous as we are putting in our work and growing in consciousness. But there's this great little thing that happens in there that the word requirement reminded me of. So there is, of course, this is a magical castle, remember. So there is a secret room called the Room of Requirement. Does anyone remember what that is? And you can't, most of the times, you don't even see a door there. You have to know where it is. So you go to, let's say that wall is there, is where the entrance to the Room of Requirement is. And standing there, you get very clear on your situation and what type of assistance you might need. And just in general terms, of course, when we are in that quandary, you don't even necessarily completely know what you need. But once you get clear, the door appears, and the room is perfectly appointed to your current dilemma and needs. That it can be this cavernous, huge room that seems to go on forever, or it can be a very small room with just the right tools and implements you need for right then for your issue. So basically, it's just like the prayer I was talking about. You are, in a sense, asking for having what is required for my current situation, and it magically shows up. But that's how it actually works. That you get clear on what it is that the situation you are. You honestly, from the bottom of your heart, ask for assistance, and you know that what is required will be put into your path. And you can go back to that room any number of times for different things, and the room will look different each and every time, with the things you need for that particular moment. And after you are done, someone else can come 10 minutes later and have a completely different experience in this magical world. That's also how this works. When we are, in a sense, praying for what is required, there's not a limit to it. Everybody gets to do it. Everybody gets to do it multiple times and any number of times. There's no end to it. You don't finish a quota. That as we face our lives in the universe and saying that I am willing to step up and do what's required, it is shown in front of you. And all of that is found in those first two ideas in what we call spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. You almost don't have to worry about what you think needs to happen. You get fully grounded in the idea that it's all available, and what is needed will be right there. So as we hopefully come into this time of year, that we try to get grounded a little bit, look at the purpose of our lives that we kind of put on hold maybe as we came into the summer, to think that we can go into that higher state of consciousness and make some real progress. So, as many of you know, I've been really on a kick with 365 Science Mind book. There's a little reading for each and every day. And what I like is that September's theme in this book is expectation. So it's a time of year to do expectation. So the reading for today, September 4th, it says, I open the door of my consciousness and welcome the divine guest. And there is a little quote here from the New Testament. It says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. Meaning, the universe is always knocking. You have to actually open the door, though. That's kind of up to you. So, and it uses the word Christ in here. What the word Christ in this context is referring to the Christ consciousness, that higher sense of oneness that we all have. It's not necessarily referring to Jesus. As we say, Jesus was embodied by the consciousness of the Christ. Buddha was embodied by the consciousness of the Christ. Any enlightened spiritual being is really within the consciousness of the Christ at a higher level. So, the healing Christ comes with directness into the mind of all who receive it. The Christ is in the incarnation of Spirit in the individual soul. Spirit has imparted itself to all persons. This divine incarnation, this living presence at the center of our being, is the Christ consciousness, the soul of every living person. We do not will this presence into existence. nor do we, by declaration, affirmation, or demand, command it. We do not court it by false humility, nor engage its attention merely by admiration. The presence, the power is already there. It is willingness, acceptance, and recognition that gives entrance to the divine presence. It is a faith and acknowledgement that permit its creative power to flow through our word. Therefore, I lift up mine eyes unto the divine presence within me, from whence cometh my strength. I will look long and earnestly, sincerely, and simply upon every object and every person until his presence is revealed. I will wait at the doorway of my expectation until my acceptance grants my mind the privilege of beholding God's face forevermore. But I will not wait too long, for today I expect to see Spirit's shining presence revealed. Today I expect to don the seamless robe of divine union. Today the Most High is revealed in my life. So let's just take that within, as we have already. Take it into our hearts. And know there's nothing to ask for. The divine presence is within us already. Our job is to just recognize it. Express gratitude for that fact. And release attachment to how that needs to look. And so it is.